Recently, I have been talking to some of my friends and clients who have been experiencing burnout. And burnout is a very, popular topic in the therapy or life coaching circle because so many people are prone to it. Um, it's a mixture of a living condition created by work, right? So you need to work to make your living happen because without money, you can't really afford anything. Moreover, if you live in the United States or any other country with privatized health insurance, you when you don't have a job, it's really risky to not have insurance, right? So you pay a lot of money for insurance. So that would actually be really drastically cheaper if you got a job. So a lot of things depend on this thing called work. A lot of things depend on this thing called a job. Along with that, so that's already one layer of stress. Now, on top of that, we have this thing called the desire. So if I generously, for some reason, decided to pay every one of my subscribers $100 every week, at first, it would be pretty amazing, right? Wow, this Billy guy's amazing. But suppose 1 year passes and inflation happens. So the relative worth of $100 keeps on decreasing, but I don't update. I don't give you a raise. I keep paying you $100. Now, some of you may be still grateful and happy, but what's going to happen over time? We're either going to get used to the fact that I'm paying you every week, or you might even be a little bit disappointed that I keep paying you the same amount without adjusting for cost of living. So, this is the mechanic of desire. We never can have enough. So, that coupled with our work situation makes burnout really a high possibility for people who want more out of their work, who want more out of their job, who want more than just a paycheck, than just, um, they want to have an impact, So sometimes you might be a type of person who wants a raise. Sometimes you might be the person who wants a promotion. Sometimes you might be the kind of person who wants to work at a better, more competitive company so that you can have a stronger resume. You might be in the nonprofit sector, and nonprofit sector, like the founders of nonprofits, have it especially hard because why? They're usually trying to solve a social kind of a problem that they're very passionate about, right? But running a nonprofit is extremely stressful and it's very arduous. There's a lot of work involved in running a nonprofit. So you're really going to be bombarded by the sheer amount of work that's given to you. So when you experience burnout, it's highly likely that you haven't really been taking good care of your mental health. Because that's why it gets to that point in the first place of like, oh my God, like you have this revelation, you have this sudden big realization that, oh my God, I think I'm burnt out. So if you are at that stage and you want to get started with taking care of yourself, what's the best thing to do? How do you get started taking care of yourself? How do you get started in taking care of yourself when you found out that you are burnt out? So the thing that I would recommend first is reducing your work. So this is one concrete action item that you can have, because reducing the amount of work already gives you a little bit of bandwidth back into your life so that you can use it to recover and restore yourself. Now, this needs a little bit of examination, because if we are to reduce work, why did this much work happen in the first place? We have to analyze and kind of reflect upon, why did we work so much? So sometimes I'm going to give you some common examples. Sometimes it's because you want to make a good impression on the people around you. You want to be a hardworking person and you want to be seen that way. So that assigns you a lot of work, right? Number two, you might be really good at your work. So let's think about this from the employer's perspective. You're a boss. And you have one person and person A and person B. Person A does a lot of work. They're very fast and they're very efficient and their outputs are pretty good. Person B, output isn't that bad, like to the point of where we need to fire this person, but relative to person A, not that great. Okay, so when you have a new project, who are you more likely to give it to? It's probably going to be person A, right? So this leads to a situation where the better you are at your job, the more work you get. But from the worker's perspective, from the employee's perspective, we we got this much work. We want to be efficient. We want to be fast. We want to get this done so that we can have a little bit more bandwidth into our life, right? But the better we get at our job, the more work we get. And this is a very common scenario where why people get overworked to the point of burnout. So number one was, you want to make a good impression. Like you're looking for a promotion, you're looking for a raise, and you're looking for some concrete, political points, brownie points, so that you can make a case for it. Point number two is, you're too good at your job and you keep accruing more and more work. And number three is your job description may not be really well defined. So it's very unclear what your actual expectations are on your job. So you feel like if you don't do that much work, you're not really, worth your paycheck. So in this case, you need to find out what is the job description. You need to have a conversation with your boss or your HR about what is the expectation that's at your level. What is it that you need to be doing? And this is especially a little bit more difficult for people who are self-employed, like me. I have my own business, right? But how much work is enough? Because I'm my own boss. I get to decide. So it's very different from working for somebody, because when you work for somebody, they give you the requirements and then you're expected to meet them, right? Okay, so we covered like three common scenarios why people get overworked, why people have a lot of work. And another, but like I said before, burnouts happen because you have this job that's already kind of a stress factor, but also there's this desire. People who get burnt out usually want to do a good job with their work. And that's a very, very, very big factor. You have to be able to accept that you are a person who's allowed to do a bad job. You are a person who's allowed to do a sloppy job. But we tend to not be able to allow that for ourselves because we have high expectations for ourselves, along with some other external things that we might be pursuing. So, in your job, let's think about these two scenarios. In one scenario, you're kind of underpaid, right? You're not like severely underpaid, but you based on your proficiency and your knowledge, you should be about one or two levels higher. So suppose you're performing at a senior level, but your role right now is just an engineer or like a junior engineer or an associate, right? So think about that situation versus you're a little bit high for your actual ability. So you're performing at like an associate level, but your role is like senior. In this case, out of these two, which do you think will be more stressful? The latter is the more stressful option. Yes, you could be stressed in the former because you want more, right? You want to get paid more. So what we fail to see is with more money, with more responsibilities, you have to deal with more stress and more expectations. We commonly think a higher, position and a higher salary is worth it. But what in life is really worth it if it comes at the cost of your health? The whole point of life, the whole point of making money is so that we can make enough money to live, right? But if making that money is a life consuming process, then doesn't it not make a lot of sense? You bought a Lego set. You bought the Lego set obviously to build the Lego set. But if at every step of the way you're breaking your Lego bricks in half, it's going to be very difficult to complete the piece, right? So you need to understand that the priority in life, yes, I'm not arguing that money is not important. I'm not arguing that, higher, prestige and, the things that you care about, I'm not saying those are bad. But when you have to compare it with your well-being and your health, what's more important? Nothing is more important than you. So this deprioritization of the work that you have, the amount of work that you have, is paramount. It's very, very important in the first step in managing burnout. Now, when you reduce the amount of work, this means you will have a lot of time. And in that time, you're naturally going to feel a big impulse to continue working. So, the intelligent thing to do in this case would be to plan for what you are going to do in that downtime where you are not working. The best recommendation is probably sleeping or doing something that actually restores your energy, enjoying things that you haven't, touched in a while, playing an instrument or something like that, reading books, feeding your soul. Those activities need to be kind of like force fed into you. Like if you're malnourished, you go to the hospital will give you a lot of supplemental things along with the basic food, right? So if you just go into I'm gonna reduce my work, you're gonna have a tough time because you're gonna really resist the temptation to continue working. So before you reduce the work, think about what you are going to do in place of the work that you are not doing. And you grow your heart's capacity, you grow your soul's capacity. You get in a little bit of mental health. And then after that, we can talk about future topics and how to think about work, how to think about labor, how to think about this topic called quality of life. And that will give you more balanced way walking into the future.